going on, everybody? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we're going to be diving into Mel Kiper's final 2025 mock draft, where he had a very interesting pick for the Minnesota Vikings, so stay tuned for that. And then also Dane Brugler, one of the best NFL draft analysts in the game, just dropped his beast of a draft guide, and it's awesome. So we're kind of connecting what he had to say about some of the top Vikings draft targets. You're going to get a lot of information on today's show, so stay tuned throughout the entire thing. But before we do so, if you guys could, hit that subscribe button because I got great news for all of you guys watching today's show. We're going to be going live for the entire 2025 NFL Draft. It's going to be a long 3 days. It's just going to be me, producer Dylan, hanging out with you guys. So if you guys could, hit that subscribe button, lock us in. Maybe we could reach 56,000 subs by the time the draft rolls around. I think we could. So if you guys are new here, haven't hit that sub button already, go down there and click that sub button today. All right, so Mel Kiper dropped a 2-round mock draft, but with the Vikings only having 4 picks, we only get to talk about one of their 4 draft picks today and what Mel Kiper had them doing. But as we know, Vikings, least amount of draft capital in the league. You got round 1, pick 24, round 3, 97, round 5, 139, and round 6, 187. But speaking about that first round pick, at pick number 24, Mel Kiper had the Vikings drafting offensive guard Donovan Jackson. I will give credit to Mel Kiper. I have not seen any mock drafts that have came out that have had the Vikings drafting the Ohio State guard Donovan Jackson. Now, he's got a ton of versatility. He played some offensive tackle with Ohio State, bumped in the guard after an injury to one of his teammates this past season, and he was pretty damn good. But this is what Mel Kiper had to say on his reasoning for having the Vikings drafting Donovan Jackson. Saying Minnesota signed guard Will Fries and center Ryan Kelly away from the Colts. It's a big improvement on their interior offensive line. Let's take it a step further. Jackson would replace Blake Brandel at the other guard spot, and he has the versatility to kick outside if needed. He did so this past season when Josh Simmons got hurt for Ohio State. This seems relevant given left tackle Christian Darrisaw is recovering from a left knee injury. Jackson is a plug-and-play interior blocker with great agility and technique. He allowed 4 sacks over 40 starts. The Vikings do not have a second-round pick, but they could find a solid cornerback at the end of round 3. And I also agree with that. I think there is some value at the end of round 3 at the cornerback position. But here's how the Vikings offensive line could potentially look with Donovan Jackson sliding in there at the left guard spot. I mean, this is the top 5 unit in the league. Just call a spade here. You got the 2 tackle positions solidified. Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill, assuming Darrisaw will be all good to go once week 1 rolls around. But then you also got Donovan Jackson at the left guard spot. I mean, if he ends up hitting, play him next to Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, it'd be special. And also with Donovan Jackson, if he is going to play next to Christian Darrisaw and Ryan Kelly, even if he is maybe not the prospect or like maybe he doesn't hit his ceiling, I guess I want to say, as a guard, I just think his natural play will be elevated playing next to other good offensive linemen. I mean, it's just naturally how it works here. But here are his PFF grades from this past season: 71.8 overall grade, 70 flat in the pass block, 70.3 in the run block, allowed 2 sacks and also 2 penalties on the year. But this guy's a freak athlete, man. Comes in at 6'3", 315 pounds, 32.5-inch vertical jump. For some reason, I'm addicted to seeing big offensive linemen have good vertical jumps. I just think it's crazy to see. And then also bench press. Had him at 32 reps as well of 225. And then he had a solid broad jump as well. But so Dane Brugler, he has Donovan Jackson actually listed as an offensive tackle. He talked about how he likes his tape more at the tackle position. And he actually had him as a 6th rated offensive tackle, 2nd round grade on him. So I would prefer him at the offensive guard spot. But again, it kind of speaks to his versatility, where if like Brian O'Neill or, Christian Darrisaw has to miss a game or two, it's a simple switch where it's just like, okay, Donovan Jackson, Blake Brandel, both have experience at the offensive tackle spot. Then you can just shift, whoever it may be into that left guard if one of the tackles were to have to go down. But I think the Donovan Jackson pick, and frankly any offensive guard that the Vikings take in round 1, whether that's Tyler Booker, Gray Zabel, whoever it may be, I think it would just be the cherry on the top for the Vikings offense because you need to add another running back next to Aaron Jones. You got that in Jordan Mason. You needed to solidify the interior of the offensive line. You did that with Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. Then if you'd add Donovan Jackson there, I mean, you look at the whole team offensively. Like, you got a great play caller. You got this amazing plethora of weapons on the perimeter. I mean, Justin Jefferson, don't need to say much about him. Guy's an absolute stud, best wide receiver in the National Football League. Then Jordan Addison, one of the best wide receiver twos you could have. And then you also got Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, love that 1-2 punch. And TJ Hawkinson having a full offseason where he doesn't have to recover coming off that torn ACL. I think he's going to have a better year. But with all that being said, it all comes down to our sweet prince, J.J. McCarthy. And I hate putting pressure like this on him, but it truly does come down to the right arm of McCarthy. Like, if he is a top 10 quarterback right away from day one, I think he's got the possibility to do so. Vikings will have a top 3 offense. You're going to have a top 3, if not a top 5 defense, bare minimum this upcoming year. But if you want this offense to hit that next level, it's going to have to be all because of J.J. McCarthy. And I got full faith in him. Like, I think that's a great spot where the Vikings are saying, yeah, we got a great coach. We got a great support system. We just need our first round, 10th overall pick quarterback to play well, and we'll be a very successful football team. So I want you guys to get down in the comments right now. Be the teacher for me real quick. Grade the pick of Donovan Jackson. If I had to give my letter grade, I really, really do like this pick. I don't know if I love the pick. I'd probably have to give it I was going to say B-B. I'll give it a B. I think this would be a solid pick for the Vikings. Nothing to write home about, but still a very good pickup. So I'll give it a B. But you guys let me know. Grade the pick of Donovan Jackson down below. Now, coming up next here on the program, we're going to dive into Dane Brugler's NFL Draft Guide. It is fantastic. A lot of great information out there. And also a cool little story about J.J. McCarthy that we'll share with you guys here in a second. But before we do so, got to give a massive shout out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is Game Time. Now, if you guys want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets, do so with Game Time. Now, download the Game Time app, create an account, and plug in that promo code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is Game Time. Now, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff, showing you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Now, if you guys are trying to go to a Minnesota Timberwolves playoff game, Minnesota Wild game in the next couple of weeks, Game Time is the number one way to do so. Or even with the Twins, just had their home opener a couple of days ago. If you guys want to go check out the Twins live in action, Game Time is the number one way to do so. My favorite feature is the all-in pricing. If you toggle this feature, it shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And also, they have a views from your seat feature, which gets you a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you even buy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It is Game Time. Shout out to Game Time for sponsoring today's show. Got that link for you guys in the comment section and description of today's program, or of today's show. All right, so we're going to dive into the Dane Brugler's mock draft guide here in a second. But first off, I want to go over my favorite piece of last year's Dane Brugler draft guide, and it was a big reason why I was such a fan of the Vikings drafting J.J. McCarthy, because I think playing the quarterback position, a lot of it is intangibles. So you guys check out this quote here. So this is coming in from Dane Brugler saying, before J.J. McCarthy signed, he was telling other Michigan recruits that if they wanted to party and chase girls, go somewhere else. His class was going to be the one that restored Michigan to have that mentality and to actually go achieve it. He's different. When I saw this, you know what's so funny about this? When I saw him say that, I wasn't even that shocked. Like, I knew that about him. But the fact that he was telling other recruits, being like, yo, you're on the football team in college. You can have girls throwing themselves at you left and right. It's just natural. It's how the college lifestyle is. But JJ was telling his other, future teammates, be like, if that's why you're getting into this, if that's why you want to come to Michigan, go somewhere else. We're going to be all about business. We're going to be all about football. And I thought Dane made a good point there where he was saying, like, the fact that he went out there and actually did it, it's just different. So let's quickly fly through 5 draft targets in round 1 for the Minnesota Vikings. And I'll tell you guys what Dane Brugler had to say about him. We're going to start off with the South Carolina safety, DK Metcalf of the secondary, Nick Emmanwori. This guy's a freak, 6'3", 225 pounds. Freak athlete, man. Ran a ridiculous 40 time, 4.38. And Dane Brugler was going over, scouting reports for each of these prospects, and this is what he had for Emmanwori. He obviously acknowledged freaky athlete. I mean, there is no doubt that he will probably be the best athlete in this year's draft. And he also had elite production. Listen, if he didn't have elite production and he was a freaky athlete, I would be a little more hesitant on drafting him. But the fact that the production was so good, you match that up with just a natural athletic ability, it's definitely an encouraging sign here. But he's also a very versatile player. We know Brian Flores would put him all over the map. He does have some inconsistency in terms of him as a post-snap player. And I think Brugler is trying to get at, once the offense makes their adjustments and the play is after the snap, sometimes he can get lost in coverage and he can be over-aggressive in spots. But I think these two last things are mainly coaching things. This is where I think Flores could come in and just completely sandpaper his game. So I like that scouting report for a man, Emmanwori. But how about Kenneth Grant from Michigan here? Freak athlete, again, from the interior. The guy can move so well at his size. And, it was funny. I was watching the Ohio State-Michigan game from this past season, and I remember seeing Kenneth Grant just hunt down a running back, run down the sideline. And I was like, man, who is that? And I started looking into him, and I was like, oh, shit. Maybe the Vikings could draft him next season, and maybe they will. But this is what Brugler had to say on Kenneth Grant, saying a dominant run presence. Grant is a powerful boulder who can execute two-gap techniques or single-stack blocks and work down the line with quickness. He looks to fire off the ball, although his tall pads will negate his leverage and lower body strength, diminishing his bull rush and limiting the ways in which he can impact a quarterback. Overall, Grant plays big in a big man's game. But he also has the athletic traits and effort to grow into more than just a stout run stopper. He projects as an early down NFL starter with 3 down upside. And listen, Kenneth Grant is still my favorite Vikings trade back draft target. Where, if you guys have noticed, go look at some mock drafts recently. Even the Mel Kiper one we were talking about, he fell to the 40s. If that's happening on draft night, oh my God, Vikings, you trade back with the Chiefs or the Bills. They're trying to go get a guy. You say, yeah, we'll close out the end of the first round. We'll go draft Kenneth Grant. I think that would be a home run pick for the Minnesota Vikings. But next up here, Tyler Booker, offensive guard from Bama. J.J. McCarthy's former teammate when he was at IMG. Cool photo of those two dapping each other up after the Rose Bowl a couple years ago. And Tyler Booker's just like, hey, J.J., go win that whole thing. But here's some strengths for him. He's got physically imposing size. He's 6'4", 326 pounds. I love that. And his tape is very repeatable. He's a very consistent player. He's got really strong, heavy hands. He bends very well. And he's got a great mentality. I remember it was at the scouting combine. I think it was actually our very own Marshall Green. Shout out to you. He said that Tyler Booker said that he makes people fall out of love with the game of football. Love that mentality from an offensive lineman. But some weaknesses here. He's not a dynamic athlete. He's not a freak, zone pulling guard, which I don't know if he's the best scheme fit with what O'Connell likes to do, but he could be a little more aggressive. Hands can get caught on the outside, which could lead to some penalties at the next level, hence why he did have 7 penalties in 2024. But Tyler Booker, I still think he would be a good pick for the Vikes. How about another defensive tackle here that we all are very, very well aware of? Derrick Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. This guy's a monster, and Dane Brugler actually had him as a second-rated defensive tackle ahead of Kenneth Grant in his draft guide. But this is what he said. A player who can win in different ways. Harmon forces blockers to attack air with his lateral explosiveness or uses strong, crafty hands to swat away the reach of blockers as he bursts through gaps to close on the ball carrier. Though he led FBS interior linemen in pressures, he also led the position in missed tackles. Even the smallest improvements in his backfield finishing ability would have resulted in double-digit sacks. Overall, Harmon is highly active and disruptive big man who can consistently find ways to gain freedom from blocks as a penetrating pass rusher and run stuffer. He projects as a scheme-diverse NFL starter anywhere from 1 to 5 tech. And listen, production was there. I mean, the man had 55 pressures this past season. Would I like to see the sack number a little higher? 100%. Shout out to John Gruden for this one, but nobody cares about pressures. Get to the damn quarterback. Get him on the ground. But I think that could just be something that he naturally develops throughout his game. And I think, again, he would be an awesome pick for the Vikings at 24. But let's talk about a little blockbuster pick here. Somebody who I don't think is going to be on the board at 24. Somebody who I think is a true top 12 player in this year's class, and that's Colston Loveland. Now, listen, I would be all in on trading TJ Hawkinson if it meant you could land Loveland. Like, if you could somehow trade Hawk, let's just say you take a first-round pick, TJ Hawkinson, move up to like 16, 17, and you go land Loveland, I think that would be a steal. 6'5", reminds me of Travis Kelce. Like, his wiggle, his bend on routes, he's got great hands, has that connection with J.J. McCarthy. I would love it, but this is what Brugler had to say. With his speed and ball skills, Loveland can line up anywhere on the field and wins a quarterback-friendly, multi-level receiving threat. He isn't a liability as a one-pop, get-in-the-way blocker, but will struggle to sustain or control NFL edge defenders. Overall, Loveland doesn't have the skills set up for full-time inline responsibilities, but his dynamic movements, natural hands, and football awareness should make him one of the primary targets in an NFL offense. His tools and upside are reminiscent of Zach Ertz. And Zach Ertz still had a great year for the Commanders this past season. And listen, I would love to see the McCarthy-Loveland connection in the purple and gold again. Like, obviously the Vikings have been supporting J.J. McCarthy very well this offseason. Got him 2 new interior offensive linemen. You got him another running back. But if you would go put the icing on the cake and go get him his college tight end who he had a great connection with, I would be a massive fan of this pick. But if you guys had to pick, who is your dream Vikings draft target? You guys let me know your thoughts down below. If I had to give mine, I think it's still Nick Emmanwori or Kenneth Grant. Somehow, if it could be Colston Loveland, I would do it. But we appreciate you guys watching today's show. See you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.